Well, Razorback fans, we know the Razorback defense has a lot of interesting questions to it, but it starts up front with the defensive line. Is this going to be a high-end, high-caliber SEC defensive line for the Razorbacks? Let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday, as we'll have a few things to get into, something to consider when it comes to the other opponents in the SEC that are going to be going up against the Razorbacks, but also looking into the EA Sports college football video game. Yeah, that's still a thing. Yeah, I bought it, and yeah, I have some thoughts on it, so I'll give you some takeaways on that. But as we get closer to SEC Football Media Days, which starts up next week, I've been doing a little different position groups and just kind of looking at them in the very basic manner. And offense, I think, was really interesting because of the excitement in some elements. The people who were returning, Taylor Green being one of them, the Bobby Petrino angle, all of that. But the Razorback defense is just as important, if not more important, when it comes to the success of Razorback football. And to me, we're going to talk about all the other position groups, but to me, it's always about the defensive line. The defensive line can really help out every single other piece of the defense in the back seven. A great defensive line can alter a game more so than anything else, than any other position group. And also, the defensive line can take you from being just an average to below average team, but putting you in a position to be a great team, a double-digit win team in college football. I look back on some of the great defensive linemen, but also the great defensive lines that Arkansas's had over the past 10, 15 years. They've had some really good ones. Guys that were drafted in the first round, guys that were all SEC, all American in some cases. And I think back to those particular players and just how big of a difference they made. And we could start even with a Landon Jackson last year. I know Arkansas' season wasn't as successful as they wanted, but Landon Jackson was somebody who really elevated his game. Looked so good and lived up to the expectation and to the hype that so many people had given him in the preseason. He was a guy I thought that was going to go to the NFL after his 2023 season, but decided to come back to Arkansas, which was big, and really helped out Arkansas in a major way. And now he's in the NFL, drafted by the Detroit Lions. Or Buffalo Bills. He's a Buffalo Bill. Isaac TeSlaa's a Detroit Lion. But still, you get my point. Really good guy. And then you even take it back a little bit before then, and thinking about, a Sosa Agim, who was a solid defensive lineman. I'm going to even go back further. I'm going to go back to 2014. I referenced this team in this year many times. But that 2014 team went 6-6. Should have been so much better because Arkansas' schedule was a brutal one that year, but that defense was another level. That defense was, statistically speaking, the best defense Arkansas has had in 20 years. They held opponents next to nothing. Really good offense. They shut out back-to-back SEC opponents and LSU and Ole Miss. They held an Alabama team that went on to go into the college football playoff to 14 points. I mean, they were just really good. And they had some good players in the back end. I mean, you had a Rohan Gaines is still my favorite name to say. Tevin Mitchell. I mean, Martrell Spate was awesome at linebacker, led the SEC in tackles. But what made that defense so good was you had Trey Flowers, you had Darius Philon, you had Dietrich Wise, you had a guy like, wow, his name just escaped me. Can't believe I forgot about it. It'll come back to me in a second. But you had a great core group of defensive linemen, a lot of depth at that defensive line position, and it showed. It really showed. That made such a difference. You had one great, but when you have like three great ones, it changes the whole landscape. And that's why that defense was so good that year. That's why that defense was able to do so many great things. I remember watching Trey Flowers get triple teamed by offensive linemen in a game and still get to the quarterback for a sack. It's game changing. And so I say all of that and bringing us into this year, this particular time, about the current offense or defensive line for Arkansas and where it stands, what it looks like. Now, is it a defensive line that's going to be like that one of 2014 where you had three bona fide NFL players on it? No. I would love that, but it's really hard, folks, to kind of have that happen for anybody, much less at a place like Arkansas. But will it be good? You've lost Landon Jackson. Will it be good? Will it be better? Will it be a D-line that is able to get to the quarterback, is able to stop the run, is able to be that defense that makes differences in games? Well, let's kind of go through a little bit of what we're looking at for Arkansas on the D-line. First off, they got plenty of bodies. That's number one. Plenty of depth there. I think it's quality depth. Obviously, certain players are better than others, but I think that they have quality depth. I think they have a lot of experience as well, which is big time. And I really like Deke Adams as the defensive line coach. He was somebody that I wasn't too sure about when he came in, just because of the amount of different jobs he had, and Arkansas had kind of swung and missed on a few of the D-line coaches, but not in this particular case. Deke Adams has been pretty consistent, and even though the D-line may have not been elite level All-Americans, they still were really good and serviceable. They were a solid SEC line as long as he's been coached. So I like all those elements to it. But looking at the particular players and who's going to be involved now that Landon Jackson's gone, I think that you got to start with Cam Ball. He's the guy that decided to come back to Arkansas. He's the interior D lineman, D tackle, 6'5", 326. Great personality. Was able to play at a high level last year. I assume they'll probably have him come to SEC football media days. He's just a great dude and an energized guy, a guy that you want to have in the D line. And I think him being the leader of all that is really great. So you start with him, and I love it. Another defensive lineman in the interior is Danny Sealy, I believe is how you say his name. It's tough, but he's the transfer from BYU. He's 6'3", 325 pounds. He's number 88, by the way, which is kind of strange. Be taking a little bit to get used to, but heard a lot of great things about him, and could end up being a guy that not only ends up playing, but even starting. I know Ian Jaffard is the biggest dude, 6'5", 389. I'm sure he'll get some run. And David Oki, who is the transfer, which I really liked him in the NCAA football game, but he's the transfer from Abilene Christian. Those are guys that could really look good in the interior. But a lot of it's going to come down to the D-ends. That's what you're missing. Landon Jackson was a great one. You still got Quincy Rhodes Jr., 6'6", 276. He's also one of those players to where I hope he has an all-SEC year, all-American year, but he's just a solid SEC defensive lineman. And that's okay. Like, you just need those sometimes. Now, not everybody can be an all-American. It'd be great if you could, but there is nothing about what I see with Quincy Rhodes as being like, oh, I don't know about this. He's an Arkansas kid too, out of North Little Rock. He's a junior, but I think that he's proven himself. He's gotten plenty of experience and plenty of stats from last year. He's going to take that next step, and he's going to step right in and have a good year. The other one I believe is going to be, I guess, Charlie Collins at this point, who is another Arkansas kid out of Pine Bluff, 6'5", 255. He's somebody that I remember hearing from Deke Adams and from the defensive coaches that they were really impressed with him in the spring and was really looking the part. It seemed like he got a lot of the run with the first team. And I think that there was a lot of excitement to him and his recruiting because he was a 4-star coming out of high school. But now it's about taking that next step. You went through the freshman year, you learned a little bit. Now what you got, let's see it. So that's kind of what you're looking at for that. You got Justice Boone also on the outside. He's the kid transfer from Florida, 6'4", 266. I know that they were excited about him. You also have Philip Lee is one I keep hearing about, man. Philip Lee, I may have some hot takes about him once it comes around to it, but he's the transfer out of Troy and a highly regarded transfer portal kid. 6'4", 240. Seems like that's kind of small, doesn't it? 240 on the outside. Well, on the outside, you got to have wheels, you got to have speed, you got to have agility, and he's got all of that. So there's other people that'll be playing. There's other defensive linemen that are going to be in there, but it comes down to are these guys going to be good? Are these guys going to be good enough to play at a high level, bring it to the end? And the answer that I have for that is at worst, this Razorback defensive line will be a defensive line that is fine. Just fine. Maybe doesn't have the individual accomplishments and incredible plays and all of that you're hoping for. But at worst, this D-line is going to be fine. Now, at best, this defensive line has so much potential in it. Mention the guys that you've already seen from, and like Cam Ball and Quincy Rhodes. Like, you know what those guys are like. You know how good they are already. And I don't think it's a crazy step of assuming, but you assume they're going to be better after another year. And the transfer portal guys that they got in were guys that were sought after from other SEC schools, experienced guys, good solid weight, strength, all of that. It's a matter of staying healthy, but it comes down to this before we move on. When I mentioned those D-lines in 2014 and all that, they had 1, 2, some cases 3, but at least 1 dude. Just absolute dude. The other linemen may have been fine, but there was one guy that had to get everyone's attention. It changes the game when you have that one guy. Double team, open somebody up. The quarterback's always got to be weary of them. Like, there's just so many things that can go into it from the mind game and the perspective of it. You have to be able to have at least one. Landon Jackson was that guy last year. Can Arkansas have another that guy this year? It's open season. They got whoever wants to do it can step up and have it happen. All you got to do is just do it. But if they get somebody, just one, at least one person to be that guy, to be all SEC caliber, that type of player, the Razorback defense is going to be just fine. Just fine. We are going to talk about a little bit about the other teams in the SEC because I think that there's some interest in some things that people need to consider when it comes to those other SEC teams. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day, and you suddenly realize that you want to be in the stands. Well, that's exactly where Game Time comes into play. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple, and prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. They've got an incredible amount of last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. No matter what it is when it comes to Major League Baseball games or when you're getting closer to the Razorback football season and you want to go ahead and get those tickets now, well, Game Time will have you covered. They're going to have great deals no matter what. And one of the best things about it is the last-minute deals, the zone deals, 10% off. Great deals that you'll see all across the board. They're always going to be able to get you taken care of and give you the lowest price guaranteed. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Okay, Razorback fans, I know, and I can be guilty of this as well. I know that sometimes we all get stuck in our own little bubble. And looking at the teams that we only care about, which is, of course, the Razorbacks. Don't care about what other teams are doing, don't really follow along, don't really care about the quarterbacks or the coaches or what they did in the recruiting or what they did in the transfer portal, any of those things. We only look through the things of the lens that we have as fans. And to me, that's okay, but it can be problematic when it comes to how we view our team and the possible successes that we predict, that we project, that we expect. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. You all may think, just like I do, that Razorback football is not going to be as good next year or this season as they were this past season. Not to say that they'll be god-awful, but who's to say that they won't be solid? Well, on paper, it doesn't seem that way. But when you get in that whole mindset of that's it and that's all that matters, and you start thinking about the games that you can win or the games that you will win when the season comes around, it's very simple to take the more of the negative approach and be like, well, we're not going to win a game. We're not going to win a single SEC game. Like we're terrible. Everybody else has passed us on and we have no chance. We have no shot in it. All of that stuff. Well, if you want to stick with that, that's fine. But we got to remember something, folks, that other SEC teams too, stay with me now. Other SEC teams may suck. They may not be any good because some teams have to finish last. Some teams have to be some of the worst teams in the league. Now, will Arkansas be one of those teams? It's possible. But I think the blanket statement of like, this team is awful because this team is just awful, and therefore they're not going to do anything, not going to have any wins, not going to accomplish anything, I think is a very over-the-top, dramatic expectation. Like I look at, for instance, Mississippi State. Will Mississippi State be an improved team this upcoming season? Yeah. Well, it's hard to be worse than what they were. But do I think that they're going to be better than Arkansas for sure? No. Same thing with Auburn. Like Auburn, man, those fans over there at Auburn, they're not happy. Expectations are low. They don't know really what to expect this upcoming year. They got a difficult schedule. But you get them at home this year and you beat them last season. So how do you know that Auburn's not going to be any good and that you'll be better than them on that day? It's very possible. Then you have teams like a Texas A&M. Not saying they're going to be bad, but like, do you really think and look at them and just be like, oh man, that's a team that's just far and away better than us? I don't, not at this current state. I mean, same thing with a team like Missouri, which I know is Missouri, but they've won more than they've lost against you. But I'm never going to look at that roster that they have over there and just be like, oh, jeez, man, there's zero chance we win that game. You see what I'm saying? You got to understand other SEC teams struggle. Other SEC teams are going to be bad. Other SEC teams are not going to have success on the field that their fans want them to. Maybe they take a step back. It's very possible. Maybe things go awry. The wheels fall off later in the season because the coaching situation's bad and they're about to get fired. Like, there's just so many variables that could come into it. And if that happens, Arkansas might be on the solid side of that. Maybe. I'm just trying to let everybody have a perspective of, think about that. Think about the other teams. Think about all the other people that are involved in your wins and losses. And now sometimes it's the other team across the way that you have to pay attention to, and that if you end up winning that game, you can't look back and be like, oh, geez, how do we even win that game? We had zero chance in it. No, sometimes you're just better. Sometimes you're just a better team. And sometimes those teams aren't very good. That's all I'm saying. Just something to consider. EA Sports College Football 26. I played it a little bit. A little nerdy. That's okay. I have some thoughts on it, though. So stay with us on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, so I know that a lot of you probably don't play the video game of EA Sports College Football 26. That's fine. I could buy it every year because I'm a sucker and an idiot. And I also like to play it a little bit too. And I did a little bit of a live stream last night, actually, on Inside Arkansas, talking about it and looking at some of the basics of it. And I got to tell you, it's one that just the game itself is better than what it was a year ago. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's better. It's pretty complicated. But they're definitely working on the presentation and the things surrounding it. And with Arkansas, it was kind of funny to see some of the ratings that were given to some of the players. Not just their overall, but certain things as far as toughness goes and agility goes and all of that. But between that and the Razorback football stadium, I like the way that it looks a lot better now. You have Tyson Foods and Walmart logos on the field. Gee, I wonder why that is. And then you have the uniforms look better. The band looks better. Fans in the stands look kind of crazy. They look like they've just crapped them out and made it into some mud monster or something like that. It doesn't look good on that front. But it's crazy to think that, here we are in the second year of the reintroducing of the EA Sports College Football game. And there's still players on here with their names and all that. And doing the broadcast, which I think is a really cool deal. They'll talk about historical stuff. Like I'm hearing Kirk Herbstreit talk about Darren McFadden and Felix Jones. Like, oh man, that's kind of cool. And so I'm still playing through it. I'm still trying to check out all of it. I think Arkansas is a fun team to play with. Taylon Green's really good on the game. He's going to be one of those quarterbacks a lot of people play with. His break tackle's great. He's got some speed. Jordan Anthony's on the game. He's the fastest player on there, but he's not all on the team anymore. So maybe we'll cheat and play around with him too. So it's a great little thing. And if you're thinking about if you're somebody that wants to buy it or thinking about buying it, do it. I mean, it's cool to see. And who knows, if Arkansas football goes south quickly, maybe it's the best way for you to feel good about it and to feel good about the future and the direction things are going and all of that. Maybe. I'm trying to figure out things for you to get excited about. And if you can't get excited about the actual team on the field, get excited about the team on the video game. But I'm going to do a lot of streams for this. I'm probably going to put some seasons together. I'll probably do it's not Road to Glory, or maybe it is. It's like the online dynasty to get people involved in. We'll have some fun with that too. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time. So definitely a cool game that I can't wait to explore and check out a little bit more. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. Keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. See you then.